Hello and welcome to the premiere episode of Short Spotlight, the series where we cover the histories and legacies of Disney cartoons. Old and new, obscure and famous, big and small. For more background on this series, please see my previous channel update video. If you're all caught up, we'll be talking about one of my all-time favorite Disney shorts. When it comes to classic Disney cartoons, The Prince and the Pauper isn't brought up very much, but it really is a wonderful production, and dare I say it, one of the best Mickey cartoons of all time. It's a great showcase for the classic Disney characters, and still holds up as a fun and entertaining film that anyone can enjoy. So what is it, and why does it deserve to be looked at more? That's what we're here to find out today. The genesis of the short came in the late 1980s. The studio was just starting to recover from the Dark Ages. The Great Mouse Detective saved it from bankruptcy, Oliver and Company did well enough to keep it going, but the real game changers, the ones that led to a revitalization of Disney animation, were two films: Who Framed Roger Rabbit and The Little Mermaid. Roger Rabbit led to the public becoming more interested in animation again. And of course, The Little Mermaid was a return to form for the classic Disney formula, breathing new life back into the studio and creating a new generation of Disney fans. Both Roger Rabbit and Little Mermaid are often credited for starring what we know today as the Disney Renaissance. Where do you go from here? How about a sequel to a movie that's over a decade old? The Rescuers was a modest success when it came out in 1977, but the story of that film was pretty open and shut. I guess the Rescue Aid Society can lead to more stories, but I don't know if there was a huge audience clamoring for that. And again, the movie came out over 10 years ago. Even if there was a built-in audience, they'd probably moved on by that point. Whatever the case, they went ahead and released a sequel in 1990, The Rescuers Down Under. It didn't do nearly as well as Little Mermaid, and when Beauty and the Beast came out the year after, the memory of it was thoroughly scrubbed from the public's mind. It has found fans in hindsight who can appreciate it for some of the gorgeous set pieces and the more action-packed story. I'm not gonna tell you it's bad by any means, but it's not that well known or thought about in the greater scope of the Disney canon. That's an objective fact. Anyways, when Rescuers Down Under was greenlit, Jeffrey Katzenberg, then CEO of Walt Disney Pictures, wanted to make a short film to go with it. This used to be the standard. A theatrical Disney film would be paired with an animated short, but it had fallen off by the mid-80s. With this revitalization of animation, it made sense to bring them back. While that was going on, there was a greater public interest in seeing old cartoon characters again. Before Roger Rabbit, it seemed like studios didn't know what to do with their legacy cartoon characters. Theatrical short films weren't in vogue anymore. There was television, but that was on a smaller scale, and most of that consisted of reruns. Roger Rabbit revitalized interest in them, and soon we'd be seeing other things inspired by the classic cartoons. This was the era that gave us stuff like Tiny Toons and Animaniacs. On the Disney end, they were looking for new ways to showcase Mickey and his friends. After all, Mickey's Christmas Carol was well received. It even got an Academy Award nomination. Why not try to use them again? The original idea was just Mickey having a twin. That was all the concept was. Eventually, the filmmakers made the connection to the original Prince and the Pauper story, and decided to go with that. And Mickey would play the dual role as both Prince and Pauper. George Scribner, the director of Oliver and Company and Mickey's PhilharMagic, would fill the director's chair. The film premiered in front of The Rescuers Down Under in 1990 to generally positive reviews. Some reviewers even preferred it over the feature presentation. Janet Maslin of the Indianapolis Star said, "With equal appeal for small children and their Mickey-loving parents, this 23-minute Prince and the Pauper is a sweet and lively retelling of Mark Twain's story." Jack Garner of the Iowa City Press Center wrote, "The Prince and the Pauper is joyful, funny, well-made, and in the classic mold. Prince gives Mickey Mouse his best role since The Sorcerer's Apprentice 50 years ago in Fantasia." And Desmond Ryan at the Philadelphia Inquirer said of it, "Mickey fans have not had a knockout, all-out cartoon fixed, or even been slipped to Mickey to tide them over, since the Disney studio released Mickey's Christmas Carol 7 long years ago. They can now rejoice in The Prince and the Pauper."
It would be appealing while the royals wailing, doing everything a little bit like a king.
The plot goes as follows. Mickey is a peasant living with his friends Goofy and his dog Pluto. They dream of being able to live well without having to worry about food. Meanwhile, a prince that looks just like him is tired of his boring palace life. By chance, they happen to meet, and the prince has them switch places. But when a plot to take over the kingdom is discovered, it's up to Mickey and the prince to save the day. Talking about it from an adaptation standpoint is kinda pointless. It doesn't have much to do with the Mark Twain story. Prince and the Pauper is one of those stories where people just take the basic premise and then make up a bunch of shit, to the point where it's an in-name only adaptation. I love the Barbie one, but you won't find me calling it a faithful adaptation. So we'll just be talking about this as a standalone. First of all, the animation. It's beautiful. They didn't skimp out. It's so cinematic. I'd say it's about the same quality as the animated films of the time. It doesn't shy away from the dark moments, showing them in stark shadows and taking them seriously. They did not have to go this hard for the Mickey Mouse Prince and the Pauper, but I'm glad they did. The cartoon makes great use of its characters. All of the classic Disney characters get a moment to stand out, and they're perfectly in character. I can't think of any that are the weak link or uninteresting to watch, and I love how it emphasizes relationships that you don't normally get to see. There aren't a ton of cartoons that have Mickey and Goofy as a duo, but they work great here, both with Mickey and the Prince. And this is one of the few cartoons that actually makes Pete out to be a legitimate threat. Making him a ruthless, ambitious captain who abuses his power works really well. They could have gone down the comedic route, something like Three Musketeers comes to mind, but they take him seriously, and he makes for a powerful presence as a villain. And bringing in the Weasels to back him as his henchmen was a brilliant choice. They're put to great use here.
You threw out the prince? You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. Nya, 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 nya.
But the real standout character is Mickey in his dual roles. The film makes the brilliant decision to make their characterizations a decomposition. Let me explain what I mean. Mickey as the Pauper is the traditional Mickey Mouse audiences have come to expect. The cheerful, nice guy. The Prince is much more mischievous and adventurous, just like how he was in the early cartoons. You compare the Mickey from Plain Crazy to the Mickey from something like House of Mouse, and the difference is stark. They're almost two different characters. So, why not make them two different characters? It's a great tribute to the mouse, both past and present versions of him. Both the Prince and the Pauper get plenty of moments to shine. The Prince is the standout of the two for reasons that are very clear. He's got a lot of personality. He's haughty and noble, as you'd expect from any royalty. But he also likes playing pranks and having fun. And he's not stuck up or full of himself. He cares for the rabble, and once he realizes how badly they're being treated, he takes action to help them. Your traditional Disney prince or princess usually isn't allowed to be mischievous or cocky, so the Prince is a welcome change of pace. The Pauper, who we'll just be calling Mickey like he is in the cartoon, is his usual shy yet cheerful and nice self, so he doesn't stand out quite as much. But he does get one great scene. You see, while all of that was going on, the king was gravely ill, which is why the kingdom fell to shit. He was out of commission and unable to govern. And while they've switched places, Mickey has to go see him while he's on his deathbed. Remember what I said earlier about how the dark moments aren't shied away from? We get a genuinely moving scene between Mickey and the king as he tells him his final words. The director described it with the following. There was a lot of argument like, it's just Mickey Mouse. Does a character like this have any kind of resonance or emotional depth to be able to insert such a short character in a scene with that kind of weight to it? I thought we could, as far as it was handled very subtly and with delicacy, and I think we did. I've always believed that if creators have the conviction, they can make any kind of plot or scene work regardless of how silly it seems on paper. Because think about it, a serious death scene with Mickey Mouse. You might laugh when you first hear about it, but when it all comes together in the film, the direction, the music, the animation, the dialogue, it works really, really well, and it's one of the most moving scenes ever put into a Disney film.
Promise me that you will rule the land from your heart, justly and wisely.
A lot of the credit goes to Wayne Allwine for his incredible performance. He was always a talented voice actor, wildly underrated in my opinion, and he really shines in this cartoon. He makes the prince and Mickey similar, yet distinct enough so that you know the differences between them.
Wait. Just a moment. Now, who are you? And who is your tailor? The name's Mickey Mouse, your Royal Highness.
Of course, a good animated performance isn't just the actor. The animators also did an amazing job making them distinct. Andreas Deja, the animator behind characters like Jafar and Scar, was Mickey's lead animator, and he deserves just as much credit for making the cartoon as good as it is. Just the way the characters move, you can easily tell them apart and know which one is which. And it all serves the story.
How do you do a Mickey that looks like Mickey but doesn't act like Mickey?
You just have to think of somebody else. You draw the same thing, but you think of a different type. So, of course, that character will walk differently. You know, he has maybe a longer stride. And the prince was very cocky anyway, so he would have his arms folded and he would be very, very confident. He was in his own castle. And Mickey would be all very shy, you know, and his body attitude would be very different. So it was kind of fun to explore that.
The Prince and the Pauper is one of the best Disney cartoons of all time. For a 30-minute cartoon, it gets a lot of story and character development in it. Even better than a lot of the feature-length films do. The animation is great, it has great moments of atmosphere. There isn't much more to say about it, it's a perfectly made cartoon. So next time you're looking for some Disney adventures, pop this in and enjoy it for yourself. What cartoon should we cover next? Well, leave them in the comments below. For now, that's all the time I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.